Gandhar explained the website. What I'm going to talk you through is how the descriptive catalog entries on the website are made. www.sangrah.org is the URL. The basic process that we follow in our overall work plan is we work with libraries. When libraries subscribe and participate with us, we acquire images, either by library imaging or if they've already got digital images, we can work with those. One thing we found is never are these images in the right page order. So before we go to cataloging them, they need to be arranged in the right page order. Once they're in the right page order, they then go into the cataloging process, which is making of the descriptive catalog entries. And once a catalog entry is made, it goes through a peer review process. Two of Gandhar's peers would review his work. If there are errors found, they just go round and round till all the errors are gone. And once the errors are gone, then automatically it gets published on sangrah.org. And this is where users interact with it. The key thing, our goal is to make 2.5 million manuscripts available on this over the next 20 years. So we had to design this for scale. Given that some manuscripts are not in Devanagari and they're in other scripts, we've also got a program by which we digitally transcribe and transliterate from other scripts into Devanagari so that it becomes available and accessible to scholars. Very early on, we established what would be our core principles of work. And the most important thing we found was we had to be completely faithful to the manuscript. If there are errors in the manuscript, even obvious errors, we just transcribe them as they are. And any information we provide must be accurate and never misleading to the user. Now, on a project of this scale, when you're thinking of 2.5 million manuscripts, one of the most important things is to be consistent over time. Because if you catalog in a particular way in 2021, you should not be cataloging in a different way in 2029. And if person A is doing a catalog and person B is doing a catalog and person C is doing a catalog, they need to be consistent as well. So consistency was important. And therefore, a lot of focus has gone into building quality and consistency in what we do. But ultimately, it's about how users will search this catalog. It's going to be a large catalog. It already is it's got some 8,500 right now. It will continue to build. And we said, however we search this catalog, we must be accurate. What that means is if somebody's given a search term, a title, an author, a subject, or whatever, we should be faithful to the query of the user, and we must be comprehensive. So we should not leave out information or manuscripts which are relevant to the searcher, nor should we bombard the searcher with useless information. So we need to be both accurate and comprehensive. So given these goals of quality, consistency, accuracy, and comprehensiveness, we designed the system in such a way that we're able to deliver these things today. So what I'll do is I'll quickly switch to showing you some of the things that we do in terms of making the catalog. I will need to, just give me a moment. I will need to log into the system. So I'm now logged in, and hopefully all the pages that I had loaded earlier will work, and I don't need to depend very much on the internet. But internally, what you saw in Gandhar's presentation was what the metadata that we capture, how we deal with that externally. Internally, we get a similar view. And here is an example of something which has been done recently. So this is a list of something like 70 or 80 data points that are captured by the process. The process is designed to be easy and yet accurate. So fingers crossed, if I click on that icon, I should be seeing an image of the last page, which, fingers are still crossed, it will show up. There you go. So the idea here is, as people are cataloging and they need to put in transcriptions or look at transcriptions from the last page, they don't need to thumb through many, many images to get to the page of relevance. So for instance, if there is information about a colophon somewhere in the middle of the manuscript, you should be able to get to the right relevant colophon pages. And all of this is working straight from this data entry website. The transcriptions are here. And I told you about peer reviews. So here, these are the remarks which were made by the reviewers, who made the remarks and on what date. And once a remark has been made, for instance here, there is a transcription error noticed by somebody, the cataloger has to correct it and say, right, I have corrected this error. And then it goes back for review and it gets approved and then it's publishable. So the need for accuracy is managed in this way. There are a number of other features, typing errors get eliminated, drop-down menus and so on and so forth, but that's for later. This is a typical review screen. So things which people have to review are all here. Things which people don't have to review because either they're generated by the computer system itself or have been reviewed by other people before, come out in pink. And similarly, you get the remarks and I have made the corrections and so on. The foundation of this is because for one text, you can get many, many manuscripts. As you saw, we had 17 manuscripts of a particular text. So the core of this is the lexica, which we have produced. In producing the lexica, what we are able to do is not have to type things over and over again. We know that if this text has been spotted as belonging to the Mahabharata, all we need to do is select the Mahabharata from the lexicon. So in terms of lexicons, we have lexicons for persons, which means authors, commentators, supporters, gurus, and things like that. Places, sorry, I'll come to places later. Titles, keywords, and subjects. So with each with each catalog entry, we associate keywords as well, which is something which is not generally available. You can do a subject search, but not a keyword search. So after reading the manuscripts, one gets to understand what are the right things to include here. So we use some keywords. So persons, titles, keywords, and subjects are linked to a text. So Mahabharata is a text, but a place is typically linked to where the manuscript was written. So it is a manuscript-related lexicon. So instead of writing Varanasi, Banaras, Kashi, and so on, there is a standard way that you represent Kashi. That's what lexicons are useful for. So we have a person lexicon, and I take this example of Jayadev because there are two Jayadevs, or whose manuscripts we have, texts we have got today. But I'm interested in Jayadev, who is the son of Bhojadev and the author of the Gita Govind. So here is a lexicon entry for Jayadev, and each person has a unique identification. And this is an important feature because when we get to 1 million manuscripts, searching through 1 million long names is not going to be very efficient, we feel. So all we need to do is, if it's a person search, look for 163, and we'll get to the right thing. So it may become for speed, this may become an important thing. A Kriti lexicon, typically, and here is Gita Govind, shows who the author is and links the author to the subjects, to the keywords, and gives some information about whether this thing has been published or not. We have a protocol by which we judge whether a manuscript is published or not. If it matches that protocol, we call it published. If it doesn't match that protocol, we call it unpublished. And then the begin and end text of the text itself. So this is the information available in the lexicon. And the gray text that Gandhar was hovering over, that information, the pop-ups, came from the lexicons. The subject lexicon is a tree. And if you go to the tree and click on one, if there's other subjects, they come in. So Kavya is, here is Kavya. So Kavya is Gadya and Padya and Sahitya, etc. And then Padya again has things. So the subject search you can select a particular subject and say, give me everything above or give me everything below. And that's how the subject search works. So again, comes from the subject lexicon. Now, keeping database integrity and making sure that everything is properly controlled in a big project like this requires role rights and requires users not to be able to tamper with and accidentally change data which is already in the database. So we have what we call rights for various roles. So viewing, editing, deleting, reviewing, reporting, importing, exporting. These are the things which you can do to the database. And these are the various databases. So person, place, kriti, keyword, catalog, and so on and so forth. The various databases which interact to give you the system. Who has what rights to change these things? And this is dependent on the role. So a trainee cataloger can only view these things, but can change his password. But if you went to a full cataloger, who, interestingly, we call that role that of a reviewer, they can change things in different places. So Gandhar would have a role as a reviewer, and he can change the person lexicons, add, edit, delete, review them, and so on and so forth. So this is how quality is maintained through the system. Users themselves, there's Gandhar, and Gandhar is the reviewer. So he has the role of a reviewer, and he can do all those things which were mentioned here. This program requires, and this is some projections which we've just recently put in, if we've got to get to 2.5 million manuscripts in 20 years, 20 years for us is March of 2042, we need to build up to a team of 200 catalogers and a total team of 270 people by March of 28. And we therefore need to not only hire people, and that had been a challenge which we've recently sorted out, we need to hire people and train them quickly. And training is very, very important and critical. We've now recently implemented training systems. So here is the example of a trainee we have. These are all the trainees. We can look at his data. And that says he started work on the 23rd of January in cataloging training. He has so far cataloged 46 manuscripts, representing 1,800 pages. He spent 38 hours on the catalog screen. And his average accuracy is 85%. And this is all the stuff that he's been doing. This is the accuracy column, this one. And as you can see, he is pretty good when it comes to short manuscripts, which are 1 or 2 or 3 pages long. So the training, I could direct him to say, look, now you focus on longer manuscripts and get your accuracy up. And the goal is to get these people up and running inside 2 to 3 weeks, become good enough to do this job. And last but not least, how do we assign work to various catalogers? We have the experience of each cataloger and the subject matters that they've dealt with. So when I'm assigning work to people, I can say, all right, this person has done a lot of Upanishads. Here is an Upanishad manuscript. I should assign it to him. This is a Shraut series of Shraut manuscripts. I should assign to the Shraut expert. So this system that way is integrated both in terms of how the catalog is produced and how it is managed. One thing I did forget to mention, and that is that every field of metadata that we record, there is a clear-cut guideline which everybody must follow. And the guidelines are available at the click of a button, written in Sanskrit. And you click on the field and you get the guideline of what you need to do. Because manuscripts have a lot of variability. And how do you deal with the variability? By having simple rules. We wrote the rules in Sanskrit because we hire people from South India. We hire people from North India. Some can understand Hindi, some cannot understand Hindi. But everybody understands Sanskrit. So the rules are in Sanskrit and easily accessible simply from the cataloging screen. So that's what I wanted to say. I hope I was quick enough Dr. Patel.
So I think we have scope for one question, if any.
Yeah, so just one question. So you have place for a manuscript, but what happens when there is place mentioned in the manuscript?
It is for the place in the manuscript. So this manuscript was written by so-and-so at such and such a time or on such and such a date in such and such a place.
No. I'm saying there are places mentioned within a manuscript.
No. Our job is that of a librarian.
Okay.
Our
fine,
job
fine.
is that
So
of a
you don't-
librarian.
fine.
That's what we're doing. So we're not going, yes, there are a number of places mentioned and, one can,
So
okay.
thank you, Sanjay ji.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation.